All right, guys, and here we are live on the Talking Rife podcast, Saturday evening. A lot of big things to talk about tonight. The big thing I want to start out with is a little bit of Rife news. Um, it's just no shortage of people wanting to silence you whenever you have something to say. Oftentimes, it's something that can help people in a way that would affect the profits of something that harms people, or it's shedding the truth on somebody who's done really bad things. But there's just, you find yourself speaking against about those things, and there will be no shortage of people trying to silence you and shut you up. Hey, Brutus, Kennel, go. And I myself am not immune to that. So we've had our share of throttling. Oh man, we've had our share of, people coming to our comments on our videos and making misinforming comments, trying to deter and lead people. What'd I say? Laid it. Um, And, we've had our commercial clients who buy our Rife machines and put them in their clinics, their wellness clinics, their IV clinics, chiropractor clinics, stem cell research clinics, things like that, and they advertise that they have a Rife machine that you can come use. They get throttled by Google. Their advertisement gets blacklisted, different things like that. And so the thing I wanted to start today's show about with Rife News is just like how rampant that actually is. A lot of people may not know that, but when it's like you're trying to spread information that can actually help people, like information about Rife machines, about frequency therapy devices, and microcurrent, PEMF, grounding mats, EMF blockers, different things like that, is that, man, you come under a heavy amount of scrutiny. And you also often find yourself battling against people who want to discredit, demonize, condemn, and just flat out lie and be hateful and insult you. And it's actually really sad. Those people, basically what they're saying by taking that stance is they want to immediately say that they know better than you. You don't have a right to this information because I know better than you. And this is hogwash. And I'm here to tell you which way you can go and what you can see and what you can read. Because I don't believe what this guy at Electromedics is saying. I don't believe in Rife machines, so neither can you. And you can't learn about them. You can't watch videos about them. And that's just all the minions out there in the comments on social media. I'm sure a handful of them come from social media farms that you just pass a certain algorithm and you have some AI bot that's posting filth in the comments to try to create a bunch of misinformation about a group or an influencer or whatever to try to deter people from wanting to follow it or learn from it. But there's a heavy amount of authentic social media accounts that are actually going out there and commenting in comments, spreading filth and misinformation because they want you to know that they know better than you. They want you to know that only they are of high enough education to determine what you get to hear about. And I mean, it really is. It's sad. It's a mental disorder. It really is. Like, I mean, you have to have like a pretty serious mental disorder to want to go around and do that. I mean, normal person, they scroll, they see something, and they may be like, "Nah, I don't like that. I'm just going to keep scrolling." Or they may like look at it and be like, "Huh, what is that? Let me look further into it." And they're like, "Oh no, I don't think that's how that works." And they'll just keep going on about their life, on about their day. They don't. Oh well, let me troll through the comments here and see what people are saying, and then like find 7 different people saying something and be like, "Oh well, this," and blah, 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 just type up the most disgusting, meanest filth that you can find. I don't know. There's I guess a small minority of people out there that do that. It seems like it's a lot, but that are just it's a mental disorder. It really is. Uh, Electromedics is not immune to that. We are not immune to that. Silicon Valley and a lot of the social media platforms don't like us talking about what we talk about. We have to be very careful how we talk about it to not get restrictions and bans and videos taken down and everything else. Today I was posting a video about how I worked with the Rife family to develop Electromedics Rife machines. I worked with them. We developed Rife machines together, and it was based off the original research of the original Rife machine that Dr. Royal Raymond Rife built. And that's how I learned and became experienced enough to build Electromedics Rife machines. And I was just making a video explaining that history about our Rife machines and why it's so important to use an Electromedics Rife machine. And for whatever reason, somebody saw that video and decided that they were going to report it. So that video got taken down. Of course, I've appealed it because there's nothing untrue at all about the entire statement, but it was flagged as misinformation just by me saying that I worked with the Rife family to develop Rife machines with the Rife family. And then I left working with them and started working for myself to build and develop my own Rife machines. And that we built Rife machines based off of the original research of Dr. Royal Raymond Rife and the original Rife machine that he used to cure cancer. So, again, it just blows my mind that, people just want to attack because they're just, they're not going to stop us. I'm going to be out here every day. I'm going to spend the rest of my life building and talking about Rife machines. Hopefully one day it becomes a really big company and we get to buy and hire out really big manufacturing companies that get to pump these bad boys out like they're freaking Coca-Cola cans. And if that ever happens, I guarantee you'll see the price of a Rife machine go down to the price of an iPhone or less. It'll become really affordable for everybody. They'll be on the shelves at Walmart for everybody to buy. And that's where we want to be, because we want everybody to have access to this technology. It should not just be reserved for the super wealthy elite. Everybody should have access to technology like this that can help them. Right now, unfortunately, it is mostly reserved for the super wealthy elite until Electromedics came along. There's a comparable unit to the Electromedics clinical grade Rife machine, which is that Rife machine right there behind me that you see. Our competitors sell something of similar strength and power and capabilities for $17,000. Ours is $5,800. We worked very hard. We did a lot of research and development and worked with suppliers, shipping, logistics, a lot of things to bring that cost down, because we knew, we believed that technology should be accessible to more people. $17,000 is unrealistic for 99.9% of the American population. That means that technology was reserved for the top 1%. And then Electromedics came in and we started building machines that were realistic for a lot more. I'm not saying it's realistic for a lot of people, probably not the majority of people, but a much larger minority of people, not just the super wealthy elite. And it's sad because when people go and report our videos and try to flag us or come in and spam and troll our comments, all they're doing is making sure that this technology reaches less people. You're not going to stop me. You can get me kicked off every social media platform. You can report me, do everything you want. You can send the federal government to my house to raid me again. Do whatever you want. You will not stop me from developing and talking about Rife machines, because I have seen them help people. I have seen them take somebody that was in a wheelchair from pain and nerve disorders and use the Rife machine for 7 days, and they were up walking. They were walking up steps, from wheelchair to walking up steps in 7 days. And it was 7 to 10 days. It was a very short time. To this day, they are still walking. I mean, it's over 2 years later, almost 3 years, and they are still walking today. Someone who was bound to be, modern medicine was bounding them to the wheelchair for the rest of their life. They started using a Rife machine, and for 3 years now, almost 3 years, they are still walking. That's why I will continue to build these. That's why I will continue to talk about it. And I have no idea why there are people on social media that want to stop that information from getting to people. It may not help them. It may not help everybody. They may have used one and had a bad experience, which I hate that for them. I hate to hear. If that did happen, it was most likely that you just had bad coaching, bad training, bad directions, used it improperly. But there are some people out there that it's just not going to help that much. Most people, majority of people, 90+% of people who use a Rife machine will see significant results in a short amount of time. But for some reason, there's people out there that want to stop you from hearing about it, that want to stop you from being able to see videos about it, being able to see videos of how they're made, being able to find companies who make them, or people who can help coach you with proper frequency therapy devices and frequency schedules and different things like that. And boy, we are no shortage to it, man. It has been one uphill battle in the rain after another. And I'm sure that a large portion of that is just, powerful corporate elites and their minions putting people out there to make sure people stay misdirected, misguided, and misinformed. Because they don't want you to be healthy. They don't want you to have technology that you can use in your home indefinitely with a one-time payment without subscriptions. They want you going, driving back and forth to the doctor every month, every week, to the pharmacy every other week, buying the next medication, the next medication, the next medication, having the next test run, the next test run, the next test run, seeing the next doctor. Oh, go to this specialist, go to that specialist, go to this specialist. They want you weak, sickly, addicted, out of shape, easily controlled, easily manipulated. Everybody has herd mentality. That is natural to our DNA and our evolution. The problem is whenever powerful corporate interest groups can create a fake herd, and then they direct the entire herd. Because they're like, oh, the herd's going this way. Aren't you going to go with them? Even though nobody's going that way. They just had the level of propaganda to be able to say, hey, everybody's going this way. I'm going to stop right there before I rant down that road for the entire episode. So I do just want to tell everybody that, yes, misinformation and throttling runs rampant. It runs it here at Electromedics. We fight every single day to keep producing videos and content and information and Rife machines and getting them out to people, helping our clinics not be throttled by advertisement on Google and other places like that. And it is a uphill battle in the rain often. And The big news that I wanted to talk about is the Talking Rife podcast will be going a very specific direction. So our goal in the Talking Rife podcast is going to be going live daily. We're going to try to do that. We'll probably take Sundays off, but generally we're going to try to go to live daily at 8 p.m. We will bring Rife updates, Rife news, Rife devices, frequency therapy updates, things like that. It will revolve around vibrational medicine news and updates and technologies and new breakthroughs. That will be, something we try to talk about every episode. But we want y'all to have a place that you can come and listen to on a regular basis that is somewhere that is another place you just get updates. Like a lot of people will go to the news for an update, or they'll go to social media for an update, or whatever it may be. You check your weather app regularly. Well, we would like people to come to the Talking Rife podcast for daily updates. But we were like, what do we have to offer? That mainstream media, alternative media, social media, or some other podcast doesn't offer. And we have spent our entire life working with different groups and organizations and things like that have left me a ton of connections in the type of groups and stuff that I've worked in. Different militias, veteran groups, different alternative media groups, different organizations that, file lawsuits against corrupt officials and even in law enforcement and personal security detail, ones that specifically deal with like high-end commercial clients, even ones that deal with human trafficking and different things like that. So needless to say is that I have a large Rolodex of resources, and people often reach out to me when something has happened that is often not being reported by mainstream media or even alternative media or different things like that, things that happen and that, that doesn't fit the narrative. So they just kind of want to sweep it under the rug. And I always think when they report these things to me or send it to me or whatever, these sources, that I'm just like, man, I would love to share this with the world. I think everybody should know about this. This should be something mainstream media is reporting on. Because when you don't have all that truth, you have a warped idea of what reality is. A great example of that was Erna and the 23-year-old Ukrainian girl that got stabbed in the neck and died on the public transport in Charlotte, North Carolina. She had a warped idea of what America was like. She didn't have all the information on Charlotte, North Carolina, and how dangerous of a city it was to take public transport on. And that's what I mean by a warped view of reality. Had she had all the information about America and our major metropolitan areas like Charlotte, North Carolina, she probably wouldn't have been on that train alone that day. She probably would have thought, that doesn't seem like a good risk reward. That seems pretty dangerous for nothing. And so we would like to update on the Talking Rife podcast every day, just some of the things that are sent to me in those back channels that aren't being reported on, or they are being reported on by alternative media. They're being swept under the rug and different things like that. So we're pretty excited to bring that to you. So just expect that daily from Talking Rife. We are going to be bringing you all the back channel news from my back channel sources. There's a lot of chatter, a lot of talk all the time. And a lot of times, a lot of it comes out to be hogwash or bogus, or just, it was just bad information, or it was just a theory. So when we do talk about things on here, just know I am just giving you information for you to make your own judgment, your own observation. I'm just relaying information. If I say I take a hard stance and believe this, you can be like, okay, that's Hunter's belief. That's his opinion. That's what he theorized is actually happening. For the most part, I probably won't do a lot of that. For the most part, I'm just going to be like, hey, this is what I heard. This is what somebody sent to me. This is what a source is telling me. And I'll be like, I don't know what to think. I don't know where to go. I don't know what you want to do with that information. So we are excited about that. Let me see here. Okay, so what I'm going to do. So, we talked a little bit about the Rife stuff. Super disheartening. It really is. Like, I mean, I don't know what people think we build Rife machines for. My general schedule is working 8 to 10 hours a day in Southern Alabama heat and humidity, framing houses, framing decks, doing trim work, oftentimes in houses that do not have AC yet because they're new construction, and things like that. And I then save that money, that my hard earned money from working construction. I save that money and then I invest it into building these machines, like the ones right here behind me. And then I take my off time to come here on social media and put myself out there that a lot of people will call crazy or a lunatic or whatever, to try to convince people like, hey, these machines are incredibly powerful and they've changed people's lives. And if you're suffering with something that modern medicine has left you high and dry on, and you feel like you're losing large parts of your life, like, you should give one of these machines a try. That's my life right now. That's what I do. My wife stands by and she helps me at every turn. She's very supportive. She's very loving, but she makes a large sacrifice in her own life, knowing that our finances mostly go towards something we believe in that we often do not see a return in. That means we often spend more money doing this than we make from doing it. And she has to deal with that sacrifices instead of putting it towards family vacations and investments and everything else. She knows that we are sacrificing and we're giving that money to a purpose we believe in, because it helped change our lives. It helped change lives to people close to us. And we know we're supposed to walk that path to help people, that this machine could help so many people in the world in a super incredible way, and that we are dedicated to bringing that technology to the world. That's my life. And people will come on social media and in the comments and tell me I'm a scammer, tell me I'm a thief, tell me I don't know what I'm doing, report my videos, try to get me banned, say really dirty, nasty things about me on their social media. But yet all I do is what? Work 8 to 10 hours a day doing back-breaking labor. If anybody's ever done marine construction, building seawalls and building docks, framing houses that start 12 feet off the ground on pilings. For those of you who don't know what pilings are, it's stilts under a house. They'll have like a house that's built on stilts. At the beach, every house is built on stilts. Houses start 12 feet off the ground, and they have wooden stilts, and you usually have the carport underneath. And then that's when your house starts. And anybody's ever done anything like that, no, it's super, super backbreaking work. And I then save that money, take that money, bring it back, and buy materials, and then spend my weekends and weeknights building these machines in my garage with my construction helpers. I will pay my construction guys to come to my house and help me build these, because they can't be built by yourself. It takes 2 people to build one machine. And then we will spend the rest of our time on social media, making content, going out to different clinics, having meetings, going on podcasts, doing group therapy sessions with different organizations, doing live events like the event we did over the past weekend with Honor Tribe Outdoors. We didn't get paid for that. The only money we see from that is if someone buys a machine. And then we are splitting half that with the organization that we're working with. Like I said, we are often in the red in electromedics because it's not about making money. It's about helping people. And that's all we're trying to do. Now, yes, if we get really big one day and people are buying these and we're making a lot of money with it, guess what we're going to do? We're going to immediately turn around and reinvest it into more research, more devices, and more manufacturing. And when we get big like that, I guarantee you'll see the prices of a clinical grade Rife machine plummet because everybody will be buying them. And they'll be being built in a manufacturing warehouse with CNC machines, and the cost of labor and materials will go down to a fraction of what they are now. They'll be probably, I guarantee you, the next big step for Electromedics Rife machines is people will be able to purchase a clinical grade Rife machine for roughly the cost you buy an iPad or an iPhone for right now. And that is incredible. Everybody has an iPhone or some smart device, Android, iPhone, it doesn't matter. And we all pay around the same amount of money for them. Now imagine everybody having a Rife machine and being able to use it for casual use, whether it's insect bites, headaches, oh, I got the common cold, I got sick, or I twisted my ankle, or I broke my arm. And then think of all the people who really need them. Of like, I've lived the last 25 years of my life barely being able to leave the house because I'm in so much pain because my arthritis is so bad. I had to stop working at 54 years old because I couldn't lay bricks anymore because my hands are froze like this from arthritis and carpal tunnel. People who can't count money anymore because they spent their whole life counting money as a cashier or a manager of a movie theater or fast food joint. I can't. I had to take another job, a less paying job because I couldn't count money anymore because the carpal tunnel or tendonitis, whatever, in my wrist was so bad. People who can't play tennis anymore. Imagine those people being able to have access to a machine like this because it's not realistic for them to buy now. But in the future, it will be. So those are the goals. That's why I do what I do. I'm very passionate about it. It's my life's work, and I'm never going to stop talking about it. I will never stop building them. Even if I stay this poor and this hardworking for the rest of my life, I will work, and I will take the money I make from working, and I'll turn around and I'll invest it into helping people with Rife machines and other frequency therapy devices. So just remember that, everybody who wants to come and attack me in my comments and everything else, report my videos. Remember, I worked 10 hours a day for years, 5-6 days a week in Southern Alabama heat just to be able to sit here and talk about something I built with the money from that construction to try to get you to get it and heal yourself with it, or to help heal yourself with it. All right, so moving on from Rife news. There's a lot of things that have kind of come through the back channel. A lot of them are being reported. Alternative media, mainstream media has touched it a little bit. It's not like they're right. They're only talking about the things that are keeping everybody super focused, right? Like the Charlie Kirk. Oh my God, next big thing. Watch this. Watch this. Watch this. Why I do this over here. That's kind of what's been going on right now lately. I got some big things I want to get into. The first thing, I mean, just the Charlie Kirk stuff's just off the rails right now. I mean, it's like that song by Ozzy Osbourne, going off the rails on a crazy train. And both sides are doing it. Both sides sound equally as ridiculous right now. From the people on the left saying he deserved it, a guy deserved to be killed because he said something I don't agree with. And then the right is over here like saying, yeah, the government needs to go arrest people who say that. It's like, y'all both sound ridiculous. Y'all both sound like children. Mommy, he said this. Go punish him. Mommy, he said this. Go punish him. That's what y'all sound like right now. It's ridiculous, except it's 10 times more disgusting and brutal. Y'all are talking about killing people and ruining people's lives for nothing because they have an opinion, because they chose to exercise their freedom of speech. Well, I will say this. All right. So on the Charlie Kirk assassination, one of the big things being criticized right now is Erica Kirk. She seems like, a new woman out there in the spotlight, having these big press conferences and stuff, talking about where she's taking Turning Point USA and all of this stuff. And a lot of people are criticizing that. They're like, wow, I just hope that my wife loves me enough to mourn me for a few days before she's up on national television telling everybody what she's going to do with the company I built. And I agree with that. I mean, that's sad. I mean, that's cold. That's cold, in my opinion. Now, everybody has their own way of dealing with grief, but I'm not going to speak on that. I'm going to speak on the conspiracy side of it. That's what Talking Rife is about. It's all about the back channel news and about the conspiracy theories of everything, right? That's what a Rife machine is, the conspiracy theory of a Rife machine. And Dr. Rife, and why the federal government destroyed the first Rife machine and confiscated all the research. Why Dr. Rife had to quit building the first Rife machine. Why Rife machines weren't further developed and further built since the 1920s. And we're picking up from scratch here 100 years later. So the conspiracy coming through the back channels, Erica Kirk apparently had an organ trafficking business in Romania. Now, this is a theory. I haven't seen anybody produce any large amounts of evidence, mostly circumstantial at best. But those are the kind of stories I love to hear. I love to hear, what is other people seeing? What is not being reported on? So apparently had something to do with sex trafficking, and somehow it was also tied to organ trafficking. But apparently she was ran out of Romania. Now, I encourage people to look that up for themselves a little bit further. I find that interesting. I'm looking at Erica Kirk's behavior, and I'm not thrilled about it. I'm looking at her immediate stance on the support with Israel and putting words into Charlie's mouth about Israel. That seems to be the big topic that everybody cares about. I guess next she's going to come up there and say, Charlie was never for the release of the Epstein files. I'm just waiting on that one. I'm waiting for that to get big again. Because right now, nobody's talking about the Epstein files because everybody's talking about Charlie Kirk. And nobody wants to talk about how Charlie Kirk publicly stated he is not in favor of how the Epstein files are being mishandled and that they should be released to the public. And then he was murdered. So I'm just going to see once everybody starts talking about that, if Erica Kirk openly calls out that, Charlie was never for that. Because I'm sure it's coming. A lot of evil people think that they're going to hide from these things and things go away. But I'm going to tell you right now, it's like cheating on your spouse. 100% of the time, it will come back to you. When you do something evil, 100% of the time, it will come back to you. You will have to speak about it. You will have to confront it. Just like our government. They keep getting confronted about this Epstein stuff. And until they actually make a move to do what's right, see, they just keep making wrong moves. They keep doing cover-ups and pointing the finger somewhere else, redirecting people's attention. And what happens? It keeps coming back. It keeps coming back. It keeps coming back. And each time it's damaging them more and more and more. That is karma. And it does not go away. It will not go away. They will pay for it one way or another. Either it's going to destroy their lives or they're just going to admit the truth and be honest about it. And I do believe that whatever is going on with Erica and Turning Point USA, that there's something wrong in there. We're not seeing the whole truth. There was motive for everything that has happened and played out. There's some dishonesty coming from Turning Point USA. I'm going to tell you right now, I don't like the way Erica is acting about everything. Very, very suspicious. Now, if Erica had been like, all right, I don't want to be a part of the company. I just want to sell it, pull the assets from it, whatever. That seems like that might have been a normal way to grieve. If she'd be like, all right, yeah, I'm going to take it over, but I need some time. That seems like a normal way. If she had taken it over and was very passionately, we're staying on course with what Charlie did. Those seem like pretty normal responses. Getting in the spotlight and immediately taking the microphone and feeling your role as a celebrity, as the most watched celebrity on the planet right now, that just seems suspicious. Openly saying things that did not align with some of the things that Charlie said, most notably about Israel. Now that is suspicious. Immediately going out there and saying, oh, well, we were never offered $150 million from Israel. It's like, why did you even have to say it like that? Wouldn't the statement be like, I don't know what people's talking about. We were never offered money from Israel or Nanatoa or whatever, however you pronounce it. That seems like a normal response, but I don't know. Just feel like, oh, we were never offered the $150 million from Israel to change our stance on Israel. So like Cash Patel up there, just, was that right? Did I say the right thing? Like, it's just a joke. Just a joke. So very curious to see how that rolls out. At this point right now, we'll say that Erica's activity is very suspicious. Her past seems very suspicious. Her father seems very suspicious. I'm getting things sent to me in the back channel that her father was involved with and things like that. And I would just, again, keep an eye out for it. The more I know, the more I'll let you know. I don't know enough to talk about it. So as I know more, I will talk about it. So one of the big things that people are also saying in the back channels was Charlie Kirk was a potential presidential candidate. And I would agree with them. I'm like, you're absolutely right. In today's climate, political climate, yes, he is a potential presidential candidate. I think the right, if he ever ran for president, would have really gotten behind him. I think he would have had a very big presence. He would have had a lot of support. He may not have got it. They might not have even let him run. They might have done the whole thing they did to Bernie Sanders in 2016, but I guarantee he'd have the support, much like Bernie Sanders, probably more, especially in today's political atmosphere. So it wasn't just that he was a potential presidential candidate. He was a potential, not anti-Israel presidential candidate, but not a pro-Israel potential presidential candidate. And that's not something that Israel was going to get behind at all. Because I could immediately see it like, I'm not anti-Israel, but like, I'm not, support, money, weapons, military, you being able to commit war crimes. Like, no, I'm going to vote against you at the UN. I am going to stop all the funding. I'm going to stop the weapons. I'm going to stop the military support. I can 100% see Charlie being one of those people. Not saying that he would have. We'll say that he spoke about it. He was not happy with what Trump and Israel were doing. So just something to think about. The Charlie footage, apparently, and I have confirmed this with my sources that did the same thing. Apparently, all the footage, the main footage that's being shown of the assassination in real time was AI generated, according to AI. A lot of people took the videos of Charlie Kirk being assassinated and they put them into ChatGPT and asked, is this AI generated? And apparently ChatGPT is certain beyond 99% that it was 100% AI generated. Something else to think about. Candace Owens comes out and says that she had tracked down the person who took the camera in one of the videos and kept the footage. That was one of the back camera videos pointing right at Charlie Kirk. And that she was able to convince him to show her that footage. And she said it looked real. She was like, there was nothing there that was like altered or seemed to stand out, anything like that. She said the one thing I took from it was that back angle footage shows no blood. I think that's very interesting. He was wearing all white, shows no blood. Now we have more answers to that, right? Because they're saying that the 30-06 round shot at 200 yards did not go through and through, which I can't tell you how fake that is. Like, one of the other things coming through was apparently at the time of the police recovering all the stuff in the woods. So apparently there was a type of watchdog media group. So watchdog media groups, they're a media outlet that will basically watch government, right? And they do this for the left, the right, and just for the Constitution, whatever. You have your ones that lean all different ways, but basically what they do is they go out and watch to make sure that no crimes are committed by law enforcement. So let's say you were left-leaning watchdog media outlet, then you would probably be at like ICE arrest or the Alligator Alcatraz or something like that, video camera and law enforcement doing their jobs. That way, if they did something that was considered inhumane or unconstitutional or breaking the law, you would take that footage and then you would spread it to the world and try to get them in trouble and try to get some type of what's the word I'm looking for, policy or whatever passed that amendment that they can't do that anymore. If you were for the right, it would probably be something like you would be following around I don't know, Nancy Pelosi or somebody like that in a courtroom somewhere where they're, basically arresting people for a law that doesn't exist, or they're being, they're chanting for some sexual predator to be released and have all charges dropped or something like that. So that's what watchdog groups do. A lot of watchdog groups are constitutional groups. So they just watch government as a whole. They watch law enforcement as a whole. And they make sure that if law enforcement or government workers or politicians or mayors or governors break the law, then they take that footage and they will show it to the public. And they'll show it to try to get those people criminally indicted for breaking the law, or they'll show it to their voters so that, hey, next election season, know that this mayor does this. Don't vote him in again. That's what watchdog groups does. Well, apparently there was a watchdog group at the investigation site using very high-tech cameras and were able to zoom in at very high clarity and things like that. And they videoed the entire time law enforcement were in the woods. They were able to pick up them. There was every piece of evidence they picked up, they were able to catch on footage, including keys, a carabiner, I think there was a food item, there was the different packages, whatever. The one thing they did not see them ever pick up in the woods, and there is no video existing of the police recovering in the woods, is the rifle, the weapon that he supposedly used to kill Charlie Kirk with. I find that extremely interesting, seeing as how I know what a 30-06 round does to flesh, especially soft tissue right there in the neck. And the idea that a 30-06 round would not pass through and through at such a short range for a 30-06 is troublesome. Most hunters can probably agree. If anybody's ever used a 30-06 to big game hunt before, they would probably be like, that doesn't sound right. So I find it interesting that now they don't know the rifle, and they showed pictures of a rifle. It certainly wasn't a Mauser Model 98, but now apparently it was a old World War II Mauser Model 98 rifle with no serial numbers that he used, and apparently it was chambered in 30-06. Just, a lot of misinformation coming in. Very interesting. So we are actually going to jump now to some other back channel stuff coming in. We're going to go ahead and leave the Charlie Kirk topic and move down some of these other things. So, I don't know where my time is at. Oh, all right. So Vietnam, freezes 86 million bank accounts of those that refuse to take a digital ID. So this I find really interesting because right now, if you're looking through back channel news and alternative media, I don't think mainstream media is reporting on it a whole lot. But one of the big stories right now is how the UK is about to implement their digital ID. They haven't yet, but they say they are. And they say that basically you have to get it. There's no opting out. If you want to work, buy groceries, drive your car, whatever it is, you have to get the digital ID. And it's a big topic right now. A lot of people are really voicing concerns about how that level of power can be super corrupt. Like how somebody could use that to do a lot of harm to really good people. That kind of power shouldn't be held by a government or by any entity. And so I find it interesting that nobody has been talking about Vietnam, who has apparently not only implemented the digital ID, but they've already implemented the punishments for refusing the digital ID. And that is the freezing of 86 million bank accounts. So just something to think about. I mean, a lot of people will always want to say, oh, well, that'll never happen here. That can never come here. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, our founders said the same thing about things that were happening 100 years ago. Like, and here we are 100 years later, and they're rolling over in their grave about the things we're letting happen today. A great example of that would be Trump moving troops to Portland and gives them deadly force authorization. I guarantee you, 30 years ago, hell, even 20 years ago, maybe even a decade ago, maybe not a decade ago, but maybe pre-Obama, if you would have asked any American, would we ever be in the era where Americans were okay with a military like the Marines going to a city in America like Portland, Memphis, New Orleans, Chicago, DC, and using deadly force on American citizens without due process? They would laugh in your face. But here it is. Here we are today. It's happening. I'll say that again. Trump moves troops to Portland and gives them deadly force authorization. I mean, that may not be significant to a lot of people. I'm 37 years old. I was very studied in history and in politics and in the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, and the Bill of Rights. Those are three separate documents for those that do not know. And one of the strictest wordings in the Constitution was the restriction placed on the federal government being able to use a military force domestically. That means the Constitution strictly prohibited any government, federal or state, being able to use a military force or a branch of military or any type of military equipment on the citizens on U.S. soil. But here we are today. Apparently, that doesn't mean nothing to those. And you know, the right spent the last 4 years screaming about the Constitution and upholding the Constitution and Second Amendment rights and First Amendment rights and blah, 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 blah. And now they're cheering as Trump and Bondi abolished the First Amendment right. Freedom of press, freedom of speech, that doesn't exist. Well, okay, it does exist, but hate speech is not freedom of speech. And then I'm sitting here, I'm like, well, who determines what hate speech is? Even though freedom of speech does include hate speech. That's absolutely how freedom of speech works. But then it's like, well, okay, well, who determines what hate speech is? Trump? Pam Bondi? The FBI? Because I will remind everybody, 4 years ago, the FBI was being used against you. If you showed up to a peaceful protest in January 6th, SWAT team was kicking down your door. FBI, SWAT team, and HRT was kicking people's doors down and shooting them and arresting them and giving them ridiculous sentences. There was no just home probation or reporting to a parole officer or keeping your job or not getting in trouble for a year. No, people were spending time behind bars in federal prisons just because they were at a protest. Some of them were reporters who weren't even there to protest. They were hired by mainstream media companies just to go shoot video. That's the only reason they even showed up. And they were still being given 6 and 18-month sentences in federal prison. Most people may not know this, but when you get arrested and you're in federal holding, you are in a county jail. You can be there 4 months. You can be there 14 months. You can be there 6 years. It's whenever the Federal Bureau of Prisons or the Bureau of Prisons finally can place you in a prison, a federal prison. And guess what? It doesn't matter if you spent 14 months in the county jail. Whatever your sentence was does not start until you get to the federal prison. And you can look that up. That is a real thing. Now, it doesn't always go that way. There are absolutely, in a lot of cases, where they're like, oh no, we're going to count your time in the county federal holding as time served. But they don't have to. Your time doesn't start until you make it to federal prison. And we don't care if you were in county federal holding for 6 years, 16 years. We don't care. Your time starts at prison. So you think about that as y'all sit here and cheer for the FBI to go after the left now for what is deemed hate speech. I guess the right just gets to determine what hate speech is. It's a slippery slope. It's a deadly road. All right, so there we go. Vietnam freezes 86 million bank accounts of those that refuse digital ID, those that think that cannot come to here in America. I will, again, just say, nobody thought military would be patrolling the streets. I mean, that's literally martial law. That's the definition of martial law, where military patrols the streets. They enforce law and punish crime without due process. That's martial law. And everybody's like, yeah, well, the martial law and camps are coming. I'm like, they're already here. Troops on the streets is martial law. And the camps are here. Alligator Alcatraz is the camps. You just don't think it's martial law, and you don't think that it's the camps because it's been sold to you using marketing and propaganda. And today, you're like, yeah, it's okay because it's just illegal immigrants. Oh, well, it's just Antifa terrorists. Oh, well, it's just gangs and thugs in Chicago. But I promise you, tomorrow, it'll be white Christians. It'll be gun owners, be homeschoolers. And you may think that sounds crazy. And I'm like, well, all you need is a little bit of marketing and propaganda for it to sound like it's something else. And you'll be cheering for that one too. All right, so we got that with the digital ID. Now, the next big one I want to go into is like we're seeing a lot of emergency, these kind of tying together. So a lot of emergency services has gone down. Now, I know a lot of people don't know that because they don't report that kind of stuff because they want you to think the federal government is all powerful and can protect people at all times at any situation. It's not. The services go down all the time. They get cyber hacked. They get shut down. The infrastructure fails. Whatever it is, it happens all the time. I will start reporting that here on the Talking Rife podcast. So just, what was it, 2 days ago, emergency services, which means all of 911 emergency services were completely black. You couldn't call 911 for an emergency if you were being shot, your home broken into, your house was on fire, or you had a car wreck. There was no emergency services. 911 did not work in Mississippi, Louisiana, and Alabama. And we were posting, there was people posting this in the back channels, and a lot of people just flat out didn't believe them. And I was just shocked. I was just like, man, that's just how, I mean, I know a lot of it was probably just some algorithm bots that were trying to spread misinformation throughout the back channel groups to always keep us confused and point in whatever direction. But I just thought that was interesting. Emergency services down. That came a week after there was a major cyber hack in Europe. It was European Airlines. It was one of the airlines, and it's like they had to ground all flights. I can't remember how long they were grounded for. And then immediately now here in the southeast of the United States, it's like emergency services go down. Now, this is tying into right at the time where this is being reported. I don't know this. I don't have some super microscope or access to hack into the Hubble telescope or James Webb or anything like this, but it is being reported through back channels that 3I Atlas, for those of you who don't know what 3I Atlas is, that is the interstellar object that we are watching and observing that is coming from a different solar system and traveling through our solar system, and it is passing right by Earth and the sun. This almost never happens. Most things that we observe in our observable solar system are of our solar system. Most meteors and comets, things like that, that pass by. It is very rare. We've only ever observed it one other time where an interstellar object, a comet, came from a different solar system and was traveling through our solar system. So it's a very rare feat. That's what 3I Atlas is. That is the official narrative of what 3I Atlas is. Now, a lot of people, so it started out with a Harvard professor talking about that 3I Atlas is not a comet, that it has a 0.9% chance of being under intelligent control, is what the Harvard professor said when he first observed it. And of course, it caught a lot of traction. A lot of people started paying attention, looking at it. So then NASA had to come out and make the statement that it is a very normal interstellar object. And now, since NASA has put out several things, other researchers and observers have put out photos, and they've talked about 3I Atlas, that it is not behaving in the way that a normal comet would behave. And so as it gets closer, it's supposed to be, so the biggest thing was the way it came into our solar system and the way it is passing around the sun as Earth comes to here is, like a lot of people are saying, it's a tactical approach to the Earth, that if you were going to be observing Earth, or if you were going to be attacking Earth or whatever, that it is the perfect approach to Earth to immense a attack. So that is what 3I Atlas is. When you hear people talk about 3I Atlas, that's what they're talking about, the interstellar object. Sorry, my sound tech girl is coming down here to make sure everything's still on, still working good. We're still good on TikTok? Any comments? And that's my baby girl right behind me. You want to say, hey, Remy? You just going to lick the dog gate and throw your toys down here? You going to come through it? She's very determined. So, anyways, recently, 3I Atlas has been reported to be observed traveling with 7 visitors, which means 7 other objects are on the tail end of 3I Atlas. Now, 3I Atlas is supposed to be huge. They're saying it's like a city-size asteroid or comet or meteor, and that it's emitting things that it should not emit. Like, we can always tell what type of gases and materials and stuff like that the comet's made up of based off what colors are burning off of it and things like that. So 3I Atlas has proven we don't know everything about comets and meteors because it is emitting things that are not normal or natural. Now, a lot of observers have said that they have observed 7 other objects on the tail end of 3I Atlas. And there is, of course, in the back channels, people reporting that it does seem to be under intelligent control, that it is actually maneuvering around planets and objects and other meteors. So this goes right into Trump's, I guess it was the head of Trump. It was Hegsworth. I don't know if that means anything to anybody. That's part of the Trump cabinet. He was appointed to his position, and he oversees a lot of the military commands, gaming stuff like that. Go back up there. That hasn't come up yet. Okay. Good old TikTok. Have I gotten another report violation yet? Shocker if I did. It's okay, baby. You want to come down here? Yeah, just grab her. So, anyways, Hegsworth, part of Trump's cabinet, has called hundreds of military generals and leaders into a private meeting. Now, this was reported a little bit. I think mostly alternative media. There may have been a few mainstream media that talked about this a little bit, but it was mostly alternative media and on the back channels. Everybody thought that was very interesting. Now, it was immediately shifted when it hit alternative media. After it hit the back channels, that's when alternative media picks it up. After alternative media picks it up, mainstream media usually has to pick it up and make the story about it so it fits the narrative. After it hit alternative media, that's when they started putting out the chatter about, oh, well, it has to do with Russia. Russia is doing this, and they just make calls for this. And Russia says they're at war with the United States and NATO, blah, blah, blah. I don't think that's the case. I think that they have observed something going on. Now, it may have something to do with the different cities and putting troops on the ground in every major city, whatever. It may have something to do with that. And it may have something to do with Russia. Me sitting here looking at everything, I would be cautious to make sure and to look at all the evidence to make sure it doesn't have something to do with Three Eye Atlas. Because if there was an actual like interstellar visitor coming to post up to observe or to attack Earth, they would never tell you about it. Because they can't have the population of the world running drunk, nut, and wild in the streets because they think all life is over and law and order doesn't. Law and order is nothing more than a show. It is absolutely a show. It only works if everybody abides by it. If you believe it works. Those that don't believe it work, a great example is Chicago. There's a lot of thugs and gangs and other places, the border. There's a lot of cartels and gangs and stuff like that. They play by a different set of rules. They don't see law and order. They don't see law enforcement as law enforcement. They don't care about the courts and attorneys and judges and politicians. They don't care. They live by a different set of rules. And that shows you, when you don't believe in it, how big of a facade it actually is. So law and order only works if you believe it exists. The moment you don't believe it exists, it doesn't matter if the 880,000 cops that exist in America came at us in full force. They would not be able to keep the streets of America from completely being covered in bloodshed or crime. Rape, murder, it doesn't matter. If we, the public, chose to, just like if we, the public, chose to keep it in check and in order, it will always be in check and order. Law enforcement does not do that. It is only you, the people, who are willing to be like, hey, we like to live by laws and rules. And we like to have law enforcement there to help enforce those and oversee them. So if suddenly we thought the end of the world was happening, like aliens were coming to destroy it, zombie apocalypse is breaking out, or the return of Jesus Christ and the rule of Satan for 7 years, there would be a large majority of people who no longer thought the rule of law stood. And so then they would go out and it would be chaos. It would be, let me get as much food as I can, as much water as I can, guns and ammo, protection, you name it. There would be chaos because people would be scared. They would be finding any way they can to protect themselves from the imminent threat that is coming their way. And they would no longer adhere to the rule of law. That's why preppers and militias and organizations, stuff like that, often prep for situations that would be without rule of law. So my point being is, while Trump may, or Hegsworth, it wasn't even Trump, that was someone appointed by Trump to their position, called for hundreds of military leaders and generals to come to this secret meeting. And it probably does have something to do with about having troops on the ground in the United States. It probably has something to do with Russia. It probably has something to do, with Venezuela and what the operation that's about to take place there. But I would just, caution people that there is a good chance that it has something to do with 3i Atlas. And if it is being observed making intelligent maneuvers around objects, which is what is being reported in the back channels, that is something that you should watch for. So I'm going to wrap up on this, and it's me going back to something. And it's like Trump has moved troops to Portland, or is going to move troops to Portland, and he has given them the deadly force authorization. And what does that mean for America? I mean, it's a sad time for America and the Constitution. A lot of people are cheering for this. There's a lot of constitutionalists. There's a lot of gun owners. There's a lot of Second Amendment advocates. There's a ton of people who claim to be 3% don't tread on me, good old boys, who are cheering for Trump to use the military in Portland. And I find that, I think it's sad. I think it's real sad. Everybody's like, well, something's got to be done. And I'm just like, okay, well, if everybody's so willing to break the rules and the Constitution to do something, why don't we do it for something that's peaceful? So it's like, all right, something's got to be done. All right, you want to break the Constitution. Well, how about instead of sending troops there to kill people, why don't we do this? Why don't we remove the criminal elected officials who most likely got there through corrupt means? They didn't genuinely get elected there. Nobody gets elected in their position anymore. It's all about bullying and leveraging and you name it. When's the last time the public got to see the ballot cards? That's all I'll say. The integrity of voting is completely abolished here in the United States. So anyway, so let's just say that they were elected there. And so say Trump wants to break the Constitution to fix Portland. Okay, well, why don't you go to Portland and indict the mayor, the police chief, several of the police officers that lead the beats and stuff like that, some of the city council members, and some of the judges. All right, and be like, we're not going to allow elections right now because the city's a war zone. That's what Trump's calling it, a war zone. And it's like, instead, we're going to appoint some proxies to serve in their place. And as the city becomes safe, and we get it cleaned up some, then we'll hold elections again and you can elect new elected officials. Right? That sounds realistic to me. If we're going to break the Constitution, that doesn't sound realistic either. Don't get me wrong. I think something's got to be done. And I think if we just had somebody in power that was willing to go around and arrest elected officials, that our streets would probably clean up real fast. If we just allowed citizens to not face persecution when they stand up against some of these lawless thugs, the streets would clean up real fast. There's a reason that gangs don't go to the back countryside of Alabama with their nonsense. They don't come to people's homes and property and try to rob people and sell drugs and talk smack and threaten and physically assault people. But there is a reason that they do it all over the streets. There's a reason they do it in the neighborhoods of certain streets. And I would just say that would be a way smarter approach than, all right, let's break the Constitution. But we're not just going to break the Constitution. We're going to send troops on the streets to kill people without due process. And to me, that's just a slippery slope. And everybody's like, well, they're criminals and they're gangs, and they only have the authorization of deadly force if their life is jeopardized or threatened. And it's like, all right, well, say the same thing about your fellow countrymen. You're like, all right, you have the right, no matter what, you got federal right to defend yourself if your life feels threatened in any way. Nobody would ever give that to their neighbor. Nobody would ever give that to their fellow citizen. There's a small percentage that would. But if you said the same thing that, that you're cheering for these military to have, if you were cheering for that, and they were like, well, all right, we're going to do that for your fellow citizen, like you would be booing that. And so the bottom line is it's a dark day in the United States. It's a dark day in the history of our Constitution, and it's a dark day for what our founders died for. And I'm a very pro-gun guy. I'm very pro-Constitution. I liked a lot of things. I really was excited for Trump to take office this second time around. I was really hoping, with the cabinet appoints that he had when it came to Tulsi Gabbard. I was really excited about Matt Gaetz, but then of course it went to Cash Patel and Bongino. And then of course Kristi Noem. Sorry if I pronounced that wrong. I liked all of them. I think generally they stood like on good platforms, and they really cared about making their country better and things like that. I like JD Vance at first. So it's like I say all these things. A lot of people think I'm just being critical of Trump, and I'm like, I'm just being critical of the actions that are being taken. Like, I think that regardless of who you are bound by the Constitution and habeas corpus. And I'm never, ever, I don't care what's going on, I'm never going to cheer for someone to sidestep that. Now, that said, I do believe the one thing that could fix America right now would be if we elected a dictator, a king, so to say, a dictator. And suddenly the suspension of the Constitution existed. And the only time, the only thing that king or that dictator cared about was arresting government officials. Like, you're done, you're out of your seat. I don't have to have due process. I don't have to have nothing. You have proven that you are a corrupt SOB. You've used your position of power to hurt good people and to steal money and to trample the financial system of America. You're done. You're going to jail forever. We're confiscating everything you and your family have gotten from your position of power, and we're giving it back to the people, or we're putting it back to the country, period. And I think that would be the one thing, that would be the only way that you could see a peaceful resolve in America and actually do something about the corruption. So that said, yes, I think something has to happen in Portland. I think something has to happen in Chicago and Memphis and New Orleans. I think crime in our major metropolitan areas are absolutely disgusting, and people need to do something about it. I think communities need to stand up and do something about it. I don't think that, we can just put all of that responsibility on government and law enforcement, that it is a shared responsibility, and that maybe each side would have a little more respect for one another if we were doing it together. But I don't think, and I will never think, that using a military domestically is the answer. If we had an invading army step foot in America and start actual acts of war of trying to take over America and destroy and bomb cities and kill people, much like what America has done to Libya, Syria, Afghanistan, Pakistan, Iraq, you name it, then yes, our military would have to be enacted by Congress. There's a vote of, yes, this is an act of war. We will respond. We will declare the United States is at war, and we will respond with a military force. That's how the Constitution was written to work. Not just some president saying like, hey, I don't like this side of the aisle. I don't like what they're doing, so we're going to use our military to change it. I don't think that's how the Constitution works. I mean, I know it's not. I don't think it should be interpreted like that either. And I think it's a very slippery slope. I think you saw the FBI do that. Now they're talking about the 274 FBI agents that were in plain clothes at the Capitol on January 6th. And so that gives you an idea. If Trump's doing it today, Democrats are doing it tomorrow. Michelle Obama and Barack Obama and Biden and Kamala Harris, Nancy Pelosi, old Gavin Threesome or whatever his name is. They're doing it tomorrow with the military. So just know what Trump's doing today with little to no resistance, they're doing tomorrow. And they're doing it to the other side of the aisle. Today it's immigrants and Antifa. When they get back in power, it's gun owners and white Christians. And we just saw that. Look at the way the FBI went after J6ers and gun owners. All that just got repealed. All that literally just got repealed. Some of the charges dropped. Other people lost their lives. I was a part of that whole roundup. And it's like, why are we cheering for this when the right gets to do it again? Let's arrest the people that did it when the left had them. And then let's say, you can't do that anymore. Let's let that be the message. All right, if you're going to use military and law enforcement to politically target people, you'll be arrested, you'll be indicted, you'll be arrested. And let's leave it at that message. And then nobody will do it anymore. But instead, it's like, okay, well, you used it for your side, so now I'm going to use it for my side, and then I'm going to use it for my side, and then I'm going to use it for my side. So, very dark time in the history of America. Do not want to see troops in Portland killing people. I don't want to see troops in Chicago or New Orleans. I want to see communities and law enforcement work together to make their streets safe. I also want to see those mayors, those city council members, those police chiefs, those judges who allowed those streets and those criminals to walk, who allowed things like the Ernest situation to happen. I think they need to be held criminally liable for those situations. That's what will fix the problem. Sending troops to kill people will not fix the problem. You are going to grow the insurrection. We learned that in Prohibition. Everybody seems to forget history really, really fast. So anyways, guys, I'm going to leave on that. I really appreciate you guys for joining us. Again, I'm really excited about Talking Rife podcast. I think it's going to be really exciting to really update y'all with Rife news, Rife devices, frequency therapy, technology, and all of the latest, all of the updates, and all of the breakthroughs. But I think that having a platform that you can come to that you know is on the same level of Rife machines is that there is a lot of back channel news, back channel conspiracies, and back channel information and sources that you can finally come to a place and I get to share it with you and I can share my perspective and my thoughts and my observations. But there is a ton of resources and sources out there that share things with me every day that I'm just like, wow, it blows my mind. I'm very desensitized to a lot of this. So to be able to share it with all of you so that you guys know what's actually happening in your communities, you know what's actually happening in American politics, American military, American law enforcement, and around the world is really exciting. So I hope you spread the word, like and share, leave a comment if there's something you want to hear us talk about. Thanks for joining us.